Hey guys, welcome back to Girl Take Note, where we help you turn your passions into profits so you can live the life you always deserve. I am Shaunie Sanders, and today we're continuing with our Closing Out the Year Like a Queen series with a powerful episode on decluttering your mind and life before stepping into 2025. Now, I know decluttering isn't just about tidying up, it's about creating space. Space for clarity, peace, and the new opportunities I believe is waiting for us in the year ahead. So by the end of this episode, you'll have some actionable strategies to clear out the mental, physical, and emotional clutter you've been holding back. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. This is Girl Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. Now, before we dive into how, let's talk about why decluttering is so important. Think of your life, I believe, like a garden. If it's overrun with weeds, negative thoughts, toxic relationships, or useless stuff, you don't have space to grow the beautiful things you want in your life. Decluttering is about removing the weeds so you can nurture the flowers. And that's the best part. It's a gift to yourself. It's saying, I am at peace. I put my peace first, my energy and my time. So let's get intentional about creating space as we close out the new year. And I know a lot of us really do need to kind of declutter our lives, right? With the people and the things and just looking at this new year completely different and going in it with more intentionality about the people that I want in my space. I know for me, I am just really looking at things a lot differently after been through this whole layoff and been through this rough year that I've been through. It really got me looking at life differently, looking at the people around me, the things that I do, the time I wasted, the money I wasted. And so going into 2025, I am decluttering my life in terms of making sure that I put things first that really matter and be more intentional about what I want my life to truly look like. I'm moving into my second act of life, right? I'm getting ready to be 50 years old on January 8th. And I've been thinking so much about how do I want to live the next 50 years of my life? How do I want to live this second act of my life? And I've been thinking a lot about just my own peace, my transition, what I really want my life to look like. And so a lot of things in my life are going to change, and I'll continue to share that with you guys over these episodes, but a lot of my life is going to change in 2025. And so I'm really decluttering my space. But when we also declutter our space, we have to think about our mind. So let's start with our mind because, let's face it, mental clutter can be the hardest thing to deal with because our mind controls everything about our lives. Here's how I believe you can declutter your thoughts and reclaim your mental clarity. Number one, you want to do a thought audit. And I know you're probably like, a thought audit? Yeah, a thought audit. And that is by start journaling and doing a brain dump. Write down everything on your mind, projects, worry, to-dos, either random thoughts. Seeing it all on paper is the first step to organizing, I believe, your mental space. Because when you lay it all out, then you can really see if some of the things that you've been thinking about, the thoughts and the things that you think you want to do, is it really worth the time? Is it really worth the space that is taken up in your mind? So write everything out, get it all out on paper. And I mean everything. See it in front of you and begin to remove those things that don't really matter. Make room for the things that you truly want to do, the things that you truly want to achieve, and the people you really want in your life. And the second thing is that you want to challenge negative patterns. Ask yourself, what thoughts are no longer serving me? Maybe it's a limiting belief like, I'm not good enough, or I don't have time. And I want you to flip those scripts into empowering ones, right? Let it know that you have all the time you need. You have all the time you need to get everything you want done. There's no time limit in terms of when we're supposed to be successful. There's no time limit in terms of when we need to do certain things. We really put those time limits on ourselves. And going into 2025, I'm not working within time constraints anymore. I'm not putting a time limit on myself saying, oh, well, I only have X amount of time to do this or X amount of time to do that. I don't want to live like that no more. That is too much of a mental pressure. It really is. So really begin to clear out your mind, write down everything and remove those negative thoughts. It's such an intentional step. Being intentional about not thinking negatively, especially about yourself, is the hardest thing to do, which is why I tell people, trust me, nobody can beat me up as bad as I can. And so I am really challenging myself as I move forward in 2025 to not beat myself anymore, to give myself some grace and understand that I don't have to sit up on this timeline that I put on myself thinking that, oh, you should have this by now. You should have that by now, and this, when that's not true. That's not true. I still have all the time to do things. And then on top of that, I want you to create a mental to don't list, right? To don't list, meaning like things you're not going to do. And I want you to know you heard me right. I know it sounds weird, right? It sounds a little weird, but I want you to write down things you're no longer going to focus on, like unnecessary worries or overthinking. Commit to letting them go in 2025. Don't let nothing else bother you. Don't worry yourself with things that put you in a space where it makes you not feel good about yourself, not feel good about your life, make you feel judged by you. So write down that to don't list and just put it down on paper. And when you begin to have those thoughts or those feelings, I want you to go to that list and I want you to remember, I chose not to think about this kind of stuff anymore. I chose not to do this kind of thing anymore. If we truly want to change our lives, if we truly want to see happiness, it takes intentionality. I know sometimes I feel like we get caught up in this thing where it's like, oh, I'm just supposed to wake up happy. No, I'm sorry, but it doesn't happen that way. It just don't. It really does not happen that way. Ask anybody, they'll tell you. You can wake up grateful for God waking you up, but it doesn't guarantee you to be happy. Happiness is a choice and it takes intentional steps. So you have to wake up and fight those negative thoughts every day. And it's going to be intentional work. It's not going to be easy work. I feel like we're in such a world now, or society, where we think everything's supposed to come easy. We see people go viral on social media, we see people do this and that, and we think it was just so easy for them, when people don't see the time and intentional steps that people took to become where they are. So what I'm saying is that we really need to focus more on being intentional in 2025, where I know it probably sounds like I thought I was intentional, but honestly, no, you wasn't. You really need to focus more on being intentional, on really taking intentional steps, having intentional people around you and in your circle that's going to really motivate you. That's what you need to do. And then once we declutter our mind, we have to now declutter our physical space, right? Now, your physical space, your environment, your space has a direct impact on your mindset. And when you have a clutter-free space, it can help you feel calmer and more focused. So here's how you can get started. And I know a lot of people have issues. A lot of people deal with clutter. A lot of people do. And I'm not one of those people that do that. I'm a very organized person. You walk into my home, trust and believe everything has its place. Like, I'm not that person because my space is so important to me. My space is everything to me. So if you're one of those people who have a cluttered space and you want more clarity going into this year, and you want to be more focused, you want to tackle one area at a time. And you can start small, like your desk, your kitchen counters, or even your purse, right? Trying to do everything at once can feel overwhelming. So you want to take it one step at a time and declutter a space. Even if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to create myself this workspace where I can come and I can just be creative and I can just do the things that I want to do. And I think that works. And number 2, you're going to use the 1-year rule. And if you haven't used or worn something in the past year, which I do this myself, then it's time to let it go. Whether it's clothes, gadgets, or decorations, ask yourself, does this still serve me? And I think a lot of us are guilty of this, where we will hold on to some shit and we will hold on to it for the longest. And I used to do that simply because when people used to give me Christmas gifts, I used to always tell people, please don't buy me clothes or shoes for Christmas. Just give me something else, but they did anyway. And so I will hold on to stuff. Although I know it's not my style, I didn't really want it, but I will hold on to it for like a year. I just hold on to it just because someone gave it to me. Like right now, I am actually in the process of decluttering my space, of getting rid of clothes that I'm not going to wear. I brought it. It's been sitting in my closet for over a year and a half. I'm never going to wear it. And so I'm right now in the process of decluttering my space, and I want to declutter my life and my mind, because I want to be so much focused in 2025. I want to be so much more intentional with my steps and my actions in 2025 that I just wasn't in 2024, 2023. So just start with one area at a time. And then you want to try to, and once you kind of get that area kind of decluttered, you want to try to create a system to stay organized. Because decluttering isn't just a one-time thing, it's a habit. You have to set up systems like labeling the bins or a decoration box or a weekly cleanup routine to keep your space clutter free. That's really how you want to declutter your space. And I'm telling you, if you're able to create yourself a space where it's not cluttered, doesn't have everything all over the place, you're going to see how much more free you feel, how your mind feels free, and just how you feel the creativity begin to flow. We have to do things so differently going into 2025. It's not about New Year resolutions. It's about intentionality. That's what 2025 is about me. It's about intentionality. If I could say one word that I will like to focus on in 2025, and that's being more intentional about everything that I do. Everything. So declutter your space, create space in your life for the things you want to do. Create yourself a space where you feel comfortable and you feel, I don't know, just where the creativity just begins to flow because it's not cluttered. And now we're going to talk about like decluttering our life, right? Life clutter, the commitments, relationships, and the habits they may be draining you. And here's how you can declutter your life for 2025. And this is just my opinion. You don't have to take my word for it. But I want you to evaluate your commitments. Look at your calendar, a to-do list. Are these activities or obligations you're only saying yes to out of guilt or obligation? Right? It's time to start saying no to protect your energy. And I think a lot of us just say yes to please other people. I talked about this before about people pleasing. A lot of people do people pleasing stuff. I used to be a people pleaser with my family, and I had to pull back a lot. So really look at your commitments. Look at the things you're committed to for other people, and just see if some of those things you could just kind of remove from your list. And you want to reassess your relationships. Surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you. If a relationship feels more like a burden than a blessing, then I think considering setting boundaries or creating distance is what you're going to need to do. I know for me, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the relationships in my life, the ones that I believe is draining me the most, the ones that I believe is not serving me, and really going to 25 saying, you know what? I'm going to have to give up some things. That's why I'm like, my life is really going to be changed drastically in 2025 because there are things that I'm going to give up that's going to directly affect my life. Relationships I'm going to have to give up and move on from. And it's going to be directly affected, but I believe it's going to be for the best. And I think it's going to, once it's actually done, I think the painful thing about giving up certain relationships, especially if they're romantic relationships, marriages, just relationships you've been in with someone, it's the pain that you want to avoid feeling. But once you're able to go through that pain, you come out on the other end so much better. So much better. And thirdly, I want you to release old habits and stories. Like when I tell you we can stick with a story, we can have a story define our entire lives, right? And I want you to identify habits that are holding you back, like procrastination, overcommitting, or just negative self-talk. Negative self-talk is a big one. And replace them with empowering routines that align with your goals for 2025 or align with your commitments for your 2025. That's what you want to do. You want to replace all of that negative thought. You want to release those old habits and stories about yourself. You know, we good for telling a story about how somebody did us, and that's because we're still holding on to that hurt and that pain. But going into 2025, it's time to release all of that. All those old habits, all those old stories, it's time to release them and move on. So just identify the habits that are holding you back. Don't procrastinate anymore. Don't overcommit yourself. And the biggest one that we really need to work on is the negative self-talk. Like I said, I can beat myself up. So I'm really intentional about working on being kind to myself. Understanding that whatever happens in 2025, whatever ends, it didn't have anything to do with me. I'm not the source of the problem. You know, so just me really 2025 loving on myself where I am, going into the second act in life and loving myself even more. So decluttering is a powerful act of self-care. And I don't know, you probably don't think it is, but decluttering is self-care. When you're able to let go of what no longer serves you, you make space for what truly matters, whether it's peace, purpose, or new possibilities in the new year ahead. So take time to declutter your life. Take time to declutter your mind and your space, and understand that this is a necessary process. It's a purging process that you need to do. And I don't think you just do it once a year. I think it's probably a few times a year we need to kind of reassess our lives and see where the clutter is coming from, and then begin to declutter. I think it's something we need to learn to work on a consistent basis, is what I'm saying. So this is the episode, guys, short and sweet. Thank you for spending time with me today on Girl Take Note. Of course, if you find this episode to be helpful, share it with a friend who could use some decluttering inspiration. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review so more amazing women like yourself can find this show and benefit from as well. I'll see you next week with another episode of our Closing Out the Year Like a Queen series. But until then, take note of your worth, release the unnecessary, and make room for your magic. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.